Hey guys, how are you going? Whether you're watching this live or on the replay, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm really excited to have Scott with me today. I have put a few socials up the last couple of days saying why I was inviting Scott to talk to me today. But first of all, I know Scott because he's my personal trainer. And it was quite interesting. Just during conversation at the gym one day when Scotty was writing up a program for me, he happened to ask me what I did for a living. I explained what I did, and then, of course, I said to Scott, because his response was like, oh, that's really interesting. I'd like to know more about that. As I dug a little bit deeper, found out that Scott was actually involved and was a victim of the 2002 Bali Bombings. Now, first of all, as soon as I heard that, I'm right, you need to share your story. And why I'm excited that I've got Scott here today is because he's never done this before. So guys, would be really keen for your encouragement and support today. I have a couple of questions for Scott. The last couple of weeks I've been interviewing just some really amazingly resilient, tenacious people. Lisa Westgate, Jazz Rawlinson, and Nikki over in NZ, and now today Scott. So I'm just going to hand over to Scott, have him introduce himself to you and explain a little bit about what he does. And then I've got some really cool questions about resilience and tenacity. So Scott.
Thanks for that. How are you guys? Obviously, my name's Scott, and currently I'm a part owner of a gym called Impact Strength and Fitness right here. And this gym is situated on the Sunshine Coast. Obviously, it's the same gym that Renee and myself know each other from. I'm not only part owner of that, but I'm also a trainer and have been for the past 15 years. So work with a very broad branding of people, I guess, and just absolutely love it. I love getting into conversations with people like yourself and digging into everyone's past, and only because I've got a colourful one myself, I guess. I can relate really well to people on a higher and lower scale, I guess, purely because of my background and all the good and bad things that have happened. So, it's good to be here.
Yeah. So, getting straight into it, are you able to, whatever level you're comfortable and whatever you find, relevant, to take us back to that night? And guys, I just want to preface this with the fact that, when tragedies happen like this, and particularly, this was a big deal in Australia, but what I find really interesting is that often we get caught up in that whole media hype cycle when it first happens, and then people forget about it. People don't realise that this is then a lifelong journey that, people like Scott and everybody else that was involved in that situation, even the locals in Bali, this is a lifelong journey then. And I just thought it was so, very, very crucial and important to remember that there was real human beings involved in that. It wasn't this big rah-rah sensation on the news, but this involved human beings like Scott. So if you're able to take us back to that night, Scott, and let us know what sort of...
So, as we spoke about before, it's rare that I get to sit down and actually have a think about that night, because you get so caught up with everyday life and work and so on. So this is unique for me in a sense. I haven't really gone back to it like in detail for quite a while, but I'm happy to. So it was myself and 5 good mates of mine. We all played footy together back in Barmera, South Australia, wine growing region. And so at the end of the year, we decided that we were going to go on an end of year trip, and for most of us, it was our very first trip away.
Wow.
Yeah. So I turned 18. Yeah. That May, so it was in October. Went out the night before. It was our first night on the Friday night. Had a big one, obviously, and then the Saturday on the Terps all day, and then I remember we'd gone into Surrey Club for a look, and I'm not sure what made us go over to Paddy's, but we went into Paddy's, and it's funny because I do remember talking to a bunch of guys who were from the North Melbourne Footy Club, Jason McCartney was one of those blokes. And it happens that Peter Hughes, who's a really good mate of mine now, was in that group. Now, not knowing then that I was ever going to go through what I'd gone through. So we spoke to those boys. Whatever we said, I've got no idea, but obviously it was just banter. And went upstairs and upstairs at Paddy's, and then boom.
Right.
Yeah. So from that particular moment, I just had this feeling that for some reason that we were being shot at. I've got no idea why.
Wow.
And it was just mayhem, obviously. And yeah, we ran down. For some reason, we ran down the stairs. Well, I ran down the stairs to the right, the corridor downstairs to the right, and then there were these two girls there. And I remember picking, I don't know why, just go screaming. So I grabbed them, went back upstairs because it was just, completely blown to pieces.
Yeah, right.
And then went upstairs and jumped out of the window with the two girls and landed on someone's car roof.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just imagine what sort of scene it was
Yeah,
outside. That was
chaos.
Because the bomb that went off downstairs where we were obviously went up through the floor of the second level, and then that's obviously their tactic to get everyone out onto the street when
got you.
And then I'm not sure how long it was after. That's when the car bomb went off, or the bomb with the van. I remember going back, fast forward to the next morning, and it was about a 7 to 8 foot crater in the road. That's how deep the van, the explosion was.
Yeah.
But going back to that night, so we jumped out the window and then saw everything, obviously. There wasn't a lot of tactic involved with how the situation was as far as emergency services and that went. So
did you sort of take stock in that moment of actually what was going on, or was it just bedlam and total confusion?
Total confusion.
Yeah.
I guess if you were an adult, so to speak, and you hadn't been on the piss for 24 hours, your head might have been a bit more screwed on, but it wasn't. Yeah, we had no idea it was a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
But of course it was, because everything was just leveled.
Yeah.
Know? So,
right.
There was just. I mean, it's like what you see on the news. Devastation and parts missing and people screaming and fire and
Is that still quite clear? Like you said, you try not to think about it. You don't
I don't
really need to.
Yeah, I've got a lot in my life. A lot on that's in my life that's takes my mind.
Of course.
Not away from it. I always think about it, but not to that level. Sort of.
Yeah.
I think of going back there. Going back to the place because I love the place.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you've got the chaos. Okay, so we'll leave that there as far as that goes. I mean, we've all seen it. We don't have to dwell on that, and I don't want to dwell on that.
And it took me a long time to process it, but when I see stuff on the news or I hear about it or something, things that in that sort of moment, I can relate to what it would be like to being in the moment.
Yeah.
That I see on the TV or whatever. Not that they're all different situations, but to know what like you see in Syria or you see.
Yeah.
Like in Pakistan or whatever, these bombs, and you go, holy shit, that's these people, and they've in a lot of the cases they've got it a lot worse because they even though at the time in Bali there wasn't a whole lot of structure with how everything was done afterwards. Yeah, it's still a fair bit more than what these other countries have that have to go through it. So yeah.
So before we talk about the psychological, I guess, and the emotional fallout of that, what were the physical injuries that you suffered as a result?
Yeah, not anywhere to the extent of everyone else that we were around. I mean, I've still got the clothes that I wore that night in a bag somewhere home,
Yeah.
and they're completely saturated with blood. But
Yeah.
a lot of it wasn't mine.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But no, I can't work out how there wasn't anything drastic.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you went straight into just helping other people mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it
much.
interesting how you respond in that moment? Isn't
Yeah.
it? And it's, I bet you did that without even thinking.
Well, you have no choice.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think that's really interesting because everybody's brain responds in a different way to chaos and trauma. Some people freeze. I'm a freezer.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's probably a big thing. That's I don't know if it's instilled in you early in the age that you grow up with, or whether or not that was a turning point. But I find myself pretty good thinker under pressure.
Yeah.
As far as decision making goes.
Yeah.
I back myself in with most decisions
Yep.
in the moment to be able to process it and deal with it instead of dwelling on something in the moment, I guess. Like, all right, let's think of a way to move forward and get out of this situation rather than, oh, no, we're in this situation.
Yeah, and I think that when you say, you don't know whether you're born with that or not, I think a lot of people are. They're born with that innate trigger. And it becomes a lot about the age when the trauma happens. So for me personally, being a freezer was because the trauma that happened to me and my abuse started at such a young age of like the 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, when this chaos happened, you were, you may not have had an adult mind, but you were 18.
Yeah.
So you were a footy player, you were used to team.
Yeah, I was used to being around, adults playing it in an A-grade level for footy. So I guess, I could act 12 years old one minute and act
an adult the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott, these things happened, you've come back to Australia, that was 2002, it's 2019 now. Can you explain, obviously, when we try to talk about our recovery, it's a long and winding road of ups and downs, but to try to capture what that recovery journey was like for you. We were speaking a little bit before we went live, guys, and Scott was saying he did many trips back to Bali before he even recognized he needed to address particular things. So what was a little bit about that? What was that journey like?
Well, I think it might have been 5 or 6 times I'd been back previous for since that night. We'd get invited back to the consulate by the government to go back every year for ceremonies and so on. And I remember thinking to myself a few times, like, this is easy. Like, why am I not feeling anything? But it never really touched me until on the 10th anniversary, I took Dad back, and I got home and it absolutely floored me.
Yeah, wow.
And I think the most frustrating thing about that was the fact that I thought, why has it now hit? And I was frustrated by that because it never touched me before that point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so from that, I think it's because I held a management role at the time. I was 10, I was engaged. I think I was engaged. Yep. At that particular time. So I held a bit more responsibility with my life at that particular point. So, I don't know. You just get a bit deeper with your thought processes, and it's I can't even explain how it happens or why, but I know that from that particular time on, it started the downward spiral for me.
And what was the decision for you? I know I went through many, many, many years of trauma therapy and counseling and psychotherapists and so on, and it was extremely hit and miss for me. And every time I had a bad experience, it made me go, stuff it, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But there did become a point in my life where I went, right, I need to find someone of value that's going to help me. Did you have a moment like that?
I knew inside I was screaming out for that, but I didn't want to address it. So what I did, I went to my doctor, and he put me onto a psychologist. I thought, okay, so I went to a psychologist, and I thought, well, I'm going to just. It was tough for me to be there to start with, so I thought, well, you either have to let it all out or nothing at all. So I went and I did that, and obviously that person wasn't the right fit for me because, yeah, she sort of sat there and looked at me like she
Didn't know what to do.
didn't know really what to do, and I was searching for answers big time at that point. And so that there completely turned me off of ever sort of speaking about it for years after. Until I was working as a conditioning coach for some swimmers, and I was fortunate enough to talk to a lady who was the mother of one of the girls that I trained, and she was telling me about how she was a psychologist back in Perth, back in her time over there, and her husband's in the Special Forces. Hey, Jenny. And so I sort of put her on the interview table and sort of wanted, before I entrusted in speaking fully to her about my experience, I felt as though I needed to know a bit about her background to put trust in her.
You said you interviewed her.
Yeah, in a sense, and she started to tell me a bit about who she's worked with and what she's done, and yeah, one of the most amazing ladies I've ever met, and she really helped me out, and still does.
Yeah.
Here and there when I need to sing out to her.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that that's not that long ago. So it's a process, definitely, and my recommendation for anyone that's sort of holding anything in is to not put pressure on yourself and force yourself to make the process happen faster.
Yeah.
I think you just got to bide your time, and when you feel as though you're ready to speak, it'll happen. But in hindsight, I should have spoken up a lot earlier because it did kill quite a few years of my life.
Yeah. Right.
It could have been those years could have been used better.
Yeah.
Okay. Sense,
so that in itself is a learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish that it wasn't like it is or was, but it's all a part of who I am today, I guess.
So during that process, so you've met Jenny.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen overnight. That trust and that rapport, and you sort of let little bits out at a time, and then you have a massive rush.
I think that first appointment that I had with the first psychologist to Jenny might have been 4 years.
Yeah, right.
At 5 years maybe. And that's another 5 years of complete silence. And that's a long time.
It is. Yeah. So I always say to people, was there an particular aha moments throughout that journey, sort of like turning points where all of a sudden a penny drops and you go, right, and even when you look back now, you sort of think, yep, that was definitely a light bulb moment for me in my recovery?
There's nothing specific. I think meeting Jenny.
Yeah.
And then I think being able to meet Peter Hughes and then become to the level where we're mates, and he flew over from Perth to South Australia for my 30th and surprised me. Yeah. So he was I had read his book before I even really got to meet him. So to have that sort of happen, showed me that this guy can do it. Yeah. I'm not physically hurt, like he was, and so he was a big part of the process for me as well.
Yeah. And guys, I think it's really interesting to remind ourselves too, Scott. Like I don't know what you think, but so often when we see stories on the news, and it's the 10th anniversary or the 12th or 13th, and I talk about Turia Pitt quite a lot. For those of you guys who don't know who Turia is, she was a marathon runner and long distance runner, and she was caught up in the grass fire and horrifically burnt and injured. And it's so important that you realize that recovery goes on lifelong. Okay, so we're healed, we're whole, we're functioning, but we have days where it's freaking hard.
Oh yeah.
You know, the emotional
you'll never be
fallout.
you're never rid of it, and you should never expect to rid of it. You know, you should use it as a positive, I guess. And it's bloody hard sometimes, but you know, you come to the T junction and it's turn left or turn right.
Yeah.
You know, there's been people that turn left and it doesn't end well, or there's people that turn right that's, you know, they've used a situation to be a positive influence on others, I guess. And that takes a strong person, and that's unique as well. It's just how you deal, I guess. It's how you're brought up, and there's so many factors with, you know, surround yourself with positive people and do the best you can.
And you said something really interesting before we started. Like, obviously, Scott's a personal trainer, but you said that running was something that was really therapeutic for you.
Definitely. And running's always been a big part of
psycho.
Yeah. I don't run because I'm trying to get fit. I run because it clears my mind a lot.
Yeah.
And I think Dad's the same. Like when he could run, he used it as a tool as well. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but whatever floats your boat. You know,
whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you, and it's more get out of jail card. I think. If does it heal me? No, it doesn't heal me, but it makes me feel better for it, and it takes away any free time I have to make bad decisions.
Yeah, right. yeah.
I'm still trying to thin those out.
Yeah, and see, this is what I mean. It's an ongoing learning journey, isn't it?
I've never been like, I was only telling someone the other day, like, I'm 35, but I've never. You're only really discovering your true self and how you operate.
Absolutely,
like,
I agree.
For me, yeah, like I think, shit. You know, my biggest thing that I find the hardest is balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, throwing that in the works with being a trainer. It's not 9 till 5. You know, so it's these are all challenges that you take on and try and better yourself at the end of the day without burning yourself out.
Yeah.
You know, I just look at my experience as being unique and using it as a tool to be able to get through everyday situations. So that could be tough in other senses, but for me, I back myself in to get through them easy.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah.
So I always say to people, how do you live your life now differently because you've been through something like you have?
Yeah. The things that trouble most don't bother me.
Yeah, I find the same.
Yeah, so I've been told I don't show much emotion, and that's fine. But things that others may find to be big deals, I don't hold it up to be as high of a deal, I guess, good and bad.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be here and enjoy friends and family when I can. And
do you find like, for me, I became so low maintenance?
Yeah.
That's my cat scratching the chair. I became old, like you said, things that most people stressed about. I was like, oh, seriously, it's not even a blip on the radar.
Absolutely, and that can be good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm an extremist. I think if it's bad, it's going to end up real bad. But if it's good, it's going to go for days.
It's going to end up real good.
Yeah, I'm addicted to collecting stamps if I like it enough. Yeah.
That's classic.
Yeah, so it's I'm still finding balance.
Yeah, it does change you. It does change you. But again, guys, this is what I'm saying. Who have we got? We've got Fee and Ash. Hey guys, how you going? I think it's really cool to just remind people that shit happens to everybody, sure, in different scales, and we don't get to choose that stuff a lot of the time, but you do get to choose what you do with it. You do. And I don't want to minimize that or make it bigger than it is, but the only thing that we have 100% control of is our own choices. Yeah. And it's not easy, and sometimes it takes time, and there's no condemnation in that because we all heal differently and our journey to recovery is different. But the thing that you do get to choose is when and how. Yeah. And I think, hearing from people like Scott and everybody else that I've interviewed over the last couple of weeks, the one thing that we all had in common was the choice to use it as fuel to have a good life rather than using it as an excuse to pull the doona over your head
Yeah.
and just, you know, and there was a stage of that, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, there was a stage where I did that.
Yeah.
But there comes a time, like you said, with that T-junction where
Yeah.
it's like, come on, which way do I want to go? And just realize that you don't have to do it on your own.
No.
And this is why I've got Scott here today, and I pinned him down for this, you know.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've been, you know, pinning him down about is really, you know, he has a book in him. And I believe that we all do to some varying degree. And the way that I sold it to Scott, and he was like, damn you, was I said, you know, you're doing people, you know, when you're ready, you're doing people a disservice by not, at least if it's the right time, guys, right time, and with the right support, giving people a glimpse of, you know, hope and inspiration that they too can do it. And that's why I've got Scott here today, purely so that you guys can see that it is possible to get through this stuff, you know, in your own way.
Exactly, and it's just minimizing the damage.
Minimizing the damage, yeah. So what's next for you? I know you're working on quite a few cool things.
So what's next for me? Yeah, obviously the gym that we're at, we've only been open for 14. 15.
Best gym on the coast, hands
Look
down.
us up, guys. It's an amazing spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still trying to iron out the creases there, but as far as, you know, looking to expand and so on, so working hard on that, as well as I've jumped on board with International Fitness Academy. Reese Davies is a client of mine, so Reese is the CEO of that company. So that's your online certificate 3 and 4 in fitness, which I'm passionate about, the coaching side of things. So that's going to be released in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Cool.
The first round of noms for that, but yeah, just trying, again, like I said, balance. So I'm trying to continue to train daily, trying to get sufficient sleep, trying to work on myself as best as I can so I can be positive on others outside of that. But yeah, I think I'm always striving to go back to Bali again.
Yeah.
You know, I was there in January, and yeah, any chance I can get to go back, that's next as well.
So processing and self-awareness, hey, has a big thing to do with recovery. You know, a lot of people, and like I said, no trauma journey is the same. The story, you know, that you hear about a lot of victims of trauma, particularly things like, because I'm terrified of sharks, freaking terrified. It's my freaking number one phobia. And, you know, whenever I hear about a shark victim, you know, going back in the water, I think you're bloody crazy. But I also get it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that there's a certain degree of getting back on the horse, so to speak. But again, we're all different. And I think it's really interesting, Scott, that you're like, no, I'll go back. I'd like to. I've got no hard feelings or anything.
Yeah.
You know,
no, not at
tied
all.
up in that.
I've got some real close friends that I know from that night that I still see when I go back. And people don't understand the damage that it's caused over there at the time. You know, it ruined them. So, yeah, getting ripped off every now and again by the locals, it doesn't really bother me. It's good. I find myself at my most peaceful when I'm over there.
Same.
In saying that, it's loose as you can get every time.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. I love the food. I love the people. I love the Bintang.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
No harm done by going back to support the people that had to go through it pretty tough. You know?
Yeah. So guys, what I'm going to do, for you guys that are watching the replay, Fee and Ash, I don't know if you've got any questions, but for anybody watching the replay, if you guys do have questions for Scott, obviously I haven't been to the gym since I got back from Bali last week, but I will be. I will pass those questions off to Scott. I'll put his details on here. For anybody here on the coast who's looking for a gym, Strength Impact is the way to go. And I've been to about 6 or 7 different gyms here on the coast in the last 5 years since I've lived here. I will never move. It's a family. They love you to pieces, and they really are invested and interested in getting the best results for you. And I just find that the culture up there is like family.
Yeah, well, that's what we tried to create. We tried to create that because we'd all worked together and you know, previously, 10 years ago, and then Cobes had this idea and got us all back together, and we thought, hey, that sounds great. Try and recreate that culture that has been dissolved and lost in the corporate side of bigger gyms now. So we're succeeding pretty well with that.
Yeah.
And
you're always there. They're always there.
Yeah.
So if you've got a problem, or you don't know what the hell you're doing,
you can't be owner-operated gyms, especially at that size. So we're happy to help because it's our passion. We love it.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. So by all means, check it out. I'll put Scott details on here. Head over. He has his own training academy, so on and so forth. And hands down the best. So thank you for watching. And thanks, Scott.
A pleasure.
I really do appreciate it. And I know, being the first time. Yay. But really fine. Proud of you. So just got to get you writing a book now.
Yeah. I've got to learn how to write.
Yeah, that'll help you. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Thank you for joining us. Send your questions through. See ya.